we already understand that there's a copycat element to these attacks. Uh, Obviously, the sort of copycats of Columbine that has sort of echoed ever since. But in this instance, right, who knows if he did? But the fact that we have now had two of these potential and actual assassins effectively skate, at least for a couple days, until, obviously the Kirk shooter was turned in by his family. But that is creating an incentive. That is creating that is reducing the friction to one of these mentally unstable people who's being bombarded constantly with the messaging that these people are a threat to democracy. They're a threat to the human race. You need to do something. And sure, for your liberal why not, she probably won't, pick up a rifle and, do something drastic. But for someone who's already unhinged, someone who's terminally online, addicted to the internet, addicted to drugs, as we've seen in many of these, like, it is a pressure cooker, and the weakest vessels go first.
Well, I think it's a really good point that this, if people can get away with this, it's much more dramatic, right? Because you have the scenario where at least there's a limiting factor that if you take your shot at the president or Charlie Kirk, you're going to get your head blown off, or you're immediately going to get arrested. There's a suicide or like full commitment level to this that you have to really involve yourself with. You have to be heavily deranged or heavily committed at that point. But if this becomes something that people can get away with, that they can sneak away with, that they can, pull off and escape, then you have a whole different element, right? Then these are more like guerrilla war style hits that you can, you can hit and run away from, than they are like fully committed suicidal mass shooting type scenarios. And that means that we don't just get the crazies and the suicidal ones. It means that we also get the ones that are there for attacks of opportunity, who think that they can, gain some kind of credibility inside their terrorist community or the leftist community. They can work out their hatred of right wingers, of Republicans, the GOP, and ultimately they can just retreat back into whatever squalid existence they live on Discord. But once again, a scenario where we have not seen action against platforms like Discord that are known. They know they're coordinating this stuff. They know the terrorism is being coordinated on the platform. We know they have the ability to monitor it because they shut down the right wing. The minute there's a single, slightly right of Con Inc. chat in any given Discord, it's immediately banned. But the left continues to operate and plan terrorist attacks openly on this platform. Nothing has been done. Nothing has been done. Now, is that what happened here? We have no clue. But the fact that just basic steps that cost us almost nothing are not being taken to shut this stuff down is insane. Again, I'm going to save my full polemical speech until we actually know who the shooter is. I have quite the what time it is speech to give once we know if that's the case. However, we need to, like, you can't keep looking at political assassinations forever and just say like, well, nothing can be done. Really, what can we do? No, at some point the right answer is Franco, right? Like at some point that's where the Spanish Revolution gets you. If the powers and be will not take care of left-wing violence, they will not stop unhinged political assassinations from the left on a regular basis. If this becomes a monthly feature, what random right-winger has the left shot next? If that becomes some game we're playing, then at some point, sorry, but I don't care what rules they break as long as they stop people from murdering my fellow countrymen, right? Like that's all that matters at some level. If the state will not stop in and enforce its monopoly on violence, it will not stop political violence from one side of the aisle, when it clearly will stop it from the other, by the way. Like the left had no hesitation for this, right? They threw Proud Boys who weren't even at January 6th in jail for 30 years. And you're telling me there's just no one connected to Antifa that we can find and put in jail? Not a single human being. Like that, it just seems insane at this point that we're operating this level of delusion. At some point, it's not a matter of ability; it's a matter of will, right? You simply are not willing to do it. You're not willing to take the risk. You're not willing to fight the fight. And we don't have time for those kind of people. No matter where. Like I understand the Trump administration is winning on all kinds of levels we've never seen before, like the zero immigration at the border. We're getting rid of affirmative action. A lot of anti-white stuff is being cut out. We're seeing big wins on things like administrative state. They're pushing for the end of birthright citizenship. These are all amazing things that weren't even on the table. So I want to give them credit where it's due on this stuff. But unfortunately, they've decided to get a solid 15-yard pass when we have 3 seconds left and the game is over if we don't get the Hail Mary. It's one of those scenarios where, yeah, you're putting together the best drive we've seen. Sorry for the sports ball references, nerds. Here we are. We were putting together the best drive that we've seen all year, but we need the touchdown now. We don't have time to sit around and wait. And this is the problem. The Trump administration is way better than the George Bushes and whatever, Mitt Romney's or John McCain's were supposed to be in office. But at the end of the day, it's just not sufficient. And that's not necessarily their fault that they were dropped into this moment, but that's the moment they find themselves in. Now, again, one more time, we don't know for sure that this was left-wing violence. I think it's fair to infer it, but we don't know this on the level that we know, say, the Australian shooting. So I would still want to leave the play in the joints there that this could be the scenario. But either way, if the left has shifted its mentality from we shoot presidents to we shoot political organizers to we shoot college students who happen to be right wing, then everyone's a target. It's not just the president anymore. It's not even powerful civilians. I mean, that was the shock of Charlie Kirk getting shot, right? Is he didn't feel like a legitimate target of political violence. That's what shocked everybody. Yes, he was active in politics and he was powerful, but he was still kind of an average guy. He wasn't elected to office. He has no troops at his command. He can't send anyone to jail, and he was still shot. But now we're at another level where now it's just a girl putting up flyers to vote for Trump. And now she's an open target of political violence if that indeed turns out to be the case. That's a level of escalation. I mean, really, there at that point you just have open civil war. That's all it is. You're just talking about slow motion civil war. That's all that's involved.
Well, and it's important to mention again, the Trump administration has done many things that were previously unfeasible, right? That are almost miraculous. But we have to understand that fundamentally, much in real life, we are constrained by Maslow's hierarchy of needs. And security is, let's be honest, the base of that, right? Can we continue to be safe? And all the other stuff is great. Like that, those all needed to be done. But if everyone is constantly worried about being shot by some sexual degenerate addicted to Adderall, like that doesn't matter functionally, because you can't organize in public. You can't raise your head above the wall because you'll be shot. That needs to be addressed. And particularly when, much of the messaging is about law and order, much of the messaging is about pulling back from, Biden era laxitude towards, lawlessness. Well, dude, this is the top of the list of what needs to be addressed. One of your friends, Mr. President, was shot, a guy that you know. And obviously that's a horrible tragedy. And I understand, investigations are complicated, but when this seemingly just disappears, right, sinks below the surface and the conversation moves on, we're not talking about it. We're not digging into, what motivated this attack, who potentially, cooperated with the shooter. When we're not addressing how these people are organizing, it doesn't feel serious. And maybe the answer is there's all this serious stuff going on and we simply don't know about it. But if we don't know about it, it really doesn't matter, to be honest. Because if we don't know about it, the people planning these attacks also don't know about it. In which case, okay, maybe the next investigation will go better, but it would be much, much preferable to simply not have this be a problem anymore, right? To say, no, we are not allowing this sort of violence. You're going to proactively go after it. Because again, much like the conversation around the international war on terror, we were assured that all of these massive surveillance state operations, these new 3-letter agencies, the Patriot Act, were there to keep us safe, right? A way to kind of built in this idea of pre-crime into our systems. We could stop them before it happened. And yet, what do we hear after every attack, whether political or not? The shooter was known to the FBI. It's like, well, okay, great, I guess. You knew about him, but he still did something. He still did something really, really bad. And particularly as this engages the political arena, if you are in charge of the whole system, right, the biggest, most powerful government in the world with a massive surveillance state, tens of thousands of guys with guns, and you can't stop this, it doesn't seem unreasonable to ask why. Can you not do it? Are you inept? I mean, that's embarrassing, but that seems like that could be fixed. Are you unwilling? That's kind of grim. I don't want to think that is the case. Or is there just a lack of will? And to me, that's what I think it is. There's simply not the will needed to solve this problem.
Hey guys, if you've been watching this show for a while, then you know that around here we encourage something that conservatives usually don't do. Winning. If you like what I'm doing here and you want to keep it going, then head over to Blaze TV. They have the behind the scenes content, exclusives, and documentaries that you're just not going to see anywhere else. So go to blazetv.com/Auron and subscribe today. The promo code is AURON and you'll save $20 right now off the annual plan.